say, oh, we had no idea that they was biting children with dogs and burning them at the stake. And we also made able to put some pressure on the federal government to respond when they're breaking federal laws. That's why they got on buses that rode interstate. Because once you get on a transit that goes interstate, at that point it's what? Federal. Because they knew if they kept it local that they would have very little success local. Alabama is Alabama. But they said, President, at the time Kennedy and then eventually Johnson, you got to do something. We were from Alabama to Georgia and they attacked us. You can't attack us. We're in a federal transit. And so it was a strategy behind marching and getting cameras out there. It was not just rooted in anger or being some kind of acute kind of reaction to a shooting or a killing or a lynching. So that's what I mean by examining things. Well, our frame of reference is, oh, we upset, let's do a march. But we forget the context for which the march was done and the strategy that was behind it. That's why we have a textual lineage. That's why we look and say, hey, this happened, but why was it done? And what was the outcome? So when we do whatever action we do, what is going to be our desired outcome? And how do we get that desired outcome message to the key people who are able to make decisions in those areas? And so this book and study groups in general are designed to give us a reference point to be able to make decisions that are rooted in some kind of groundedness in theory, practice, philosophy, so that we are able to engage our community in a very different kind of way. And so lastly, I'll leave you with this. Along with engaging the text, whatever that text may be, and this is what I did at Arizona State University. We had a study group called Visions for Black Men that we met the last Monday of every month. And we had this kind of conversation, whether the text was books, whether the text was documentaries, whether the text was articles that I would distribute to the participants. We engaged the text for what was and may very well be right now. Another component that we have to cultivate. We know the world as it is, but what do we want it to be? What are the possibilities? What are the barriers for us creating a new kind of world? And using our imagination and going into that deep well within ourselves and being able to speak to that within a study group is also necessary. So analyzing what has been, analyzing what is, and then to have a discussion, what do we want it to be? And then from there, you will be able to see the blossoming of creating culture in spaces and creating manifestation in spaces that we had no idea. I've been an organizer since I was a young person. And from having study groups and having dialogues, we weren't able to really understand the impact of what we were doing. But when I was an undergraduate in college, when we started our Black Studies organization called Kamasi, which loosely translated meant Black Rebellion. So you can imagine being a predominantly white institution, having an organization called the Black Rebellion, walking around shutting down all kinds of madness on campus. You know, what happens is this. The people who weren't necessarily in Kamasi, because we were the Black Rebellion, but when they did start a Black acting organization, they called it the Ebony Players. And when they started, they called it Ebony Players. You know how you have the tragedy and comedy mask in theater? They use African masks. See, we set the temperature. We were the thermostats, not the thermometer. And when they decided to start a Black dance group, these people weren't in Kamasi, but they decided to call it Harambe. And so what I'm saying is that when you are engaged in study, you begin to be the thermostat in your community. That everybody might not come to Perry's joint and be involved, but when they start to get involved, you start seeing them taking a little few pieces. They start understanding the standard, and they start reflecting on some of the things you have. And that's what we do in order to create these spaces and this energy. For the people who are in this space to do this thing to reverberate throughout the broader community. So that's my piece. I appreciate you all listening to me run my mouth for a few minutes. Let's have this conversation. Thank you very much.
tonight. We got a short one, but thank you, Brother Lasana. I really appreciate you coming in and blessing us with this. So, in the tradition of Speak Out, this is the time that we as a community get to talk about the things that we're here on topic. And today we wanted to talk about mentoring. And when we envisioned doing something called mentoring, a program for mentoring, we kind of looked at the model and thought it's a little antiquated. It's a little broken. So we wanted to introduce a new way to make contact with our young men and women in the community that was both accessible for the mentors as well as the mentees. And by that I mean through the use of technology, through the use of this literacy project, and use this book as a bridge. It is nothing more than a reference guide, but it's something to be said. When I was mentoring at Muir, when a young man asked me, what does it feel like to have a full-time job? And I thought, that got to be one of the strangest damn questions I had ever heard. But I wasn't looking at it from his perspective and what his normal is and what his household situation may have looked like. And then I peeled that onion back and I said, well, what do you mean? And he let me know, well, nobody in my house works. And I'm like, what do you mean they don't work? I mean, they must work somehow. But the point he was making is he did not know what it meant to see a man or a woman get up every day, grind, sweat, earn a living for a family, deal with the crap that you may have to deal with in an employer situation. It was completely as foreign to him as it was to me that wasn't his normal. And so we wanted to provide some setting. We were in this space of action, and some folks said we were just around here talking. Well, Brother Lasana said we have to start with a conversation. Some folks said we needed to move into an action item. I thought my action item was getting y'all together to get active. That didn't work either. So I had to go back and try to retool this thing, and God kind of put people in places and resources came to us. This isn't a sermon or anything like that, but the people came is what I'm saying. You guys came. We're here. And so really, when you come back, or if you know a young man or woman between the ages of 14 and 26, this is your opportunity to bring them here. It's where the first one will be. If they cannot afford a book, I'm going to ask each and every one of you to buy a book for somebody. He just told you where the money goes. It doesn't go to me. How much of it you get?
I've never seen a cent from it.
Okay, so we're not lining our pockets on a solution on some feel good. This is something that we just believe is for the good of the community. So you can purchase them online at Amazon, have them shipped right here. We'll receive them, we'll distribute them. You can go to Esselwan Bookstore, African American Bookstore, you can purchase them there. But the point is, you may not have a lot of time, but $15 is lunch for most of us. $15. And I'm not going to ask a young person to make a decision over Subway or the movies or whatever their issues or things that they can spend their money on. We need y'all here to do that. So we'll open up the conversation, and I'll turn it back over to Lasana to kind of moderate us through this for about the next 25 minutes. If there's 25, 30 minutes, if there's everything is fair play. Just respect everybody's opinions. Don't overtalk anybody. Typically, the rules that Speak Out are the chair has to say. So if Brother Lasana shuts you down, respect that. Or if I shut you down, respect that. Keep your comments concise and to 2 minutes. Is that fair? All right. So with that being said, let's just kind of wrap the conversation around the importance of mentoring. And there's some statistics that show that for young people who have mentors, they're more inclined to want to mentor.
Give me 1 second.
You got one here.
All right, look. When I used to work at Arizona State University, this fool next to me, he came up here, went to college with his mama before school started. And he didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. When I met him, he played water polo. And so here's a true story. He played water polo. He's from Santa Monica, Inglewood, LA. He'll tell you the story. But this is Justin. Justin, how old were you when I met you? 17, 18? He was just a baby though, right? And 18 some change.
8 and 18-year-old.
Yeah, and I just want him to talk about the study group, about what the study group did for him, and then also what mentoring did for him. So you got 2 minutes, just, but this is like proof in the pudding. That's another thing. I don't go around telling people, oh, I teach you stuff. I have students. I got real people you can like physically go find. I got reference points and stuff. I don't just be in these streets running my mouth. So just tell them what Visions for Black Men did for you and whatnot. And I appreciate you coming through, bro. Oh, he don't need the microphone. He spit hot fire.
Hi, I'm Justin. I grew up in Inglewood, California. Went to Santa Monica High School, in Arizona State, where I met him. Visions for Black Men, but more so just that core group on our campus led by this gentleman saved my life because I grew up being called, I skated all my life, I got called an Oreo, all that good stuff, but I cared about my culture. And when I first got to ASU and met Lasana, along with some others, it was the first group of men that I saw that actually cared about education, cared about what they were doing for their community, but at the same time partied, had fun, enjoyed life. So it gave me just a different aspect of what a black male could be, and black women as well. And Visions specifically, it's just educationally, it changed my life drastically. It centered me. I think more than anything, it instilled a curiosity to want to learn who I was. Does that work?
Work. And now, can I tell him where you work? I ain't gonna tell him the name of the company, but what you do. He works for like one of, is it D-Top or one of the top? It's D-Top. D-Top, how will I describe him? How do y'all describe yourself?
Photo studio.
Yeah. All right, so if you see a cover magazine with Kevin Hart on it, or Selma Hayek, or give me another one people y'all shoot. Rihanna, right? The studio that he works at, that's where they shoot it at in Hollywood. They do on-location and off-location shoots, and they also do Hollywood films. But he works for that company. He's been working there for how long? You worked for there? About 4 years. And that's what they do. They do the high-end production for Hollywood film and stuff like that. So, just not only is a centered African man, he's gainfully employed.
I tried really hard to give internships to the young African American males, by the way.
Yeah, he's not deep and broke. He's deep and paid. So, and that's another thing I stress is that we have to be skilled, right? We don't have to just be culturally aware, but we have to be skilled, and we have to be able to execute excellence, not because of a supervisor's evaluation, but because we have a standard for ourselves. And Just is representative of that. Just took advantage of every opportunity. When he had a chance to intern, and he was homeless and broke, and he needed to go to New York, he just went to New York. And we made New York happen for Just, right? And after he got his internship in New York and was working with Carmelo Anthony and Jay-Z's photographer, then he came back home, and we just made Arizona work. After we made Arizona work, we made LA work. And so that's the kind of work that this stuff is. It's authentic, and you can put your hands on it. It's not abstract. Just as a matter of fact, I want you to hook up with Manny. Manny's having a male conference at Pasadena City College. I think y'all should talk. All right, family, let's have this conversation about mentorship. How do we do this, Jane?
You throw it out there, they chime in, y'all go.
All right, my question is, has anybody ever had a mentorship experience? And based on the mentorship experience, what are some things you recommend that this particular community have as essential components? My man in the back.
I have one question.
Okay, sure.
My background is in sports, where mentoring with coaching is a big thing. They go hand in hand. And so, with going through your book and hearing you talk, I'm wondering right now, what is missing in between, or what have we missed when we deal with coaches, which is some of our kids' first mentoring, with what you're proposing.
Okay. So for those who couldn't hear, the brother said he comes from a background of athletics where coaching and mentoring go hand in hand. It's the essence of what they do. And he said, what are we missing? One of the things, brother, I'm glad you, wow, that's cool how you said that. Because one of the things that people actually do when they actually get mentor programs, they try to go after coaches, either retired coaches, things of that nature, because of the way they're able to connect. It's two things that's missing in some of the work that we're doing when we're missing our young people. One is we start out from a judgmental posture, right? And some of it is generational, and then some of it is aesthetics, right? I can do a talk. I remember I did a talk a few years ago in all places at Drake University in Iowa. It was my presentation I do about black manhood. And also when I was at the Malefe Sanchez Institute in Philly a couple years ago. And I did this talk about black men and hip hop and things of that nature. Elder, first thing he get up, you didn't say nothing about these damn sagging pants, right? I said, sir, I don't tell people how to dress. I'm not a fashion consultant. But you need to talk about these. They need to pull these damn pants up. Yes, sir. I totally understand. I don't like to see these cats' draws, but that's not my thing. Well, when I see them, I let them know I don't approve of it. How's that working for you, sir? I don't care who you are. I don't care if it's about sagging pants. I don't care about anything. If somebody immediately starts a relationship off with critiquing your aesthetic, you know what I'm saying? What's up with that big beard, dog? You ain't in Philly, right? I mean, like, damn, that's how you gonna introduce yourself to me? That's how we gonna start? That's what we're gonna start at? You know, so any critique, any engagement can't start with some kind of negative judgment. So a lot of times we approach young people from we know better, you know, and then we give them some kind of flippant kind of, how you gonna get a job sagging, right? Okay, well, I come from the first hip hop generation, and the generation before me, I could have asked you how you gonna get a job with them bell bottoms and and them hip huggers, right? I mean, young people aesthetic, they have their aesthetic, whether we approve of it or not. And so the first thing is, don't come from a judgmental position and to engage them in a way in which you're trying to get an understanding of them. With Just and his whole crew, one of the biggest saggers in his crew is a guy named Craig Bailey, right? And there's a thing called, I created this thing, it's called sagging, but it's also called sagging irresponsibly. And Craig sagged irresponsibly. You can see all of his draws. I never talked to Craig about sagging. Actually, I took Craig with me to New York when we had the Black and Male in America conference. Kevin Powell took him and Jared Henderson. I never talked to Craig about his sagging, ever. Craig Bailey, the man who sagged irresponsibly, is a Gates Millennium Scholar. That means every endeavor in his education was paid for by the Gates Foundation all the way up to a doctorate degree. Craig, before he graduated, he interned, and he was interning making $40,000 a year as a college student. When he graduated, his first job was $77,000. Right now, Craig is over construction projects throughout Southern California.